Hello, and thanks for tuning in tonight to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org, live from the Nook at the Epicurean Corner Store in fabulous Rhinecliff, New York. You're listening to Correct Me If I'm Norm with your host. Here he is, Norm Magnusson.
Thank you, Debbie.
I didn't do a good drum roll.
Oh, well, that was so I knew that was going to be thrilling. I didn't know it was going to be so amusing, too. I'm like dying with laughter here. Thank you so much. So that was Debbie Rodriguez, or if you listen to her on WCBS News Radio, Deborah Rodriguez.
Yeah, whatever. A boss made me change it one time because he thought it sounded more authoritative, but I've always gone by Debbie.
I guess it does sound more authoritative.
Which you don't even go for whatever. I did, and then that was decades ago, and I couldn't change it after that.
Yeah, because you build up sort of a professional reputation.
Kind of, I guess.
Well, I mean, you've won like all of the prizes, throughout the years. All these bunch of different.
I've never won a
broadcasts.
lot of them.
No, not a lot, but most of them.
Oh, a few.
Well, is there a prize that you'd really like to win, like the Academy Award?
That one, yep. I would, because I'm a really big movie buff.
Do you have the speech worked out?
No, I don't even think about awards. I just try to do my job every day as best I can,
and
that's it.
And does the station, I mean, most awards sort of you have to enter. Does the station, I guess they probably do, the network enters the team, and enters the show, and all of these things.
Yes.
And
we try to, the producers try to flag a particularly good show. And there's just so many. You could never remember if you were thinking back at the end of the year, oh, let's enter that one. Yeah, so that's not my job, thankfully. And a lot of times, I think most times they probably don't even enter me because I don't do that kind of work.
Well,
really.
What kind of work do you do?
I do newscasts, straight newscasts every day for several hours. And yeah, we won one this past year, for a newscast about, remember when the U.S. took out the top military guy in Iran? So that day was a bang-up day for us. And I was anchoring another show that day, World News Roundup, which is a longer format show. It's 10 minutes. And we had our Pentagon correspondent, Cammie McCormick, co-anchoring with me because her knowledge of all things military and, foreign affairs is really amazing. So we won it together. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's nice. So when you're co-anchoring, you just sort of like playing it by ear. Hopefully everybody gets their comments in, or is it scripted?
Well, because it's a straight newscast, it has to be scripted because we have very tight time constraints. You have to hit your post you have to be finished with your first segment, say at 4 minutes past the hour and 57 seconds. Because if you don't, you'll step on the automatic commercial. It comes on automatically.
Oh, boy.
That's really bad. That's a fireable offense.
And
so Cammie's in Washington even, and I was in New York because she was at the Pentagon and I was at the Broadcast Center. So it has to be scripted in that format.
Okay, and at one point, I'm guessing, when you were a young journalist, you were probably writing the words that you were then delivering on the radio.
I still do.
You still do?
I write everything.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So then when you co-anchor with somebody, they're sort of writing what they want to say, and then you guys get together and...
Mm-hmm. Because we have to know the exact length of what they're going to say.
Right. All right, so now I got to ask, if you go over into the commercial... Will your voice go over the commercial, or will the commercial just cut you right off?
It'll cut me right off in the middle of a sentence, and it sounds really bad, and the affiliate stations don't like that because it's a network.
Right.
So you have hundreds of affiliates, and then they all call in.
And in New York City, it's 880? That's the affiliate?
That's the affiliate that carries us, because I'm on the network, on CBS Radio Network, and WCBS 880 is our local affiliate, and I worked there for decades, so I know it. Both sides, inside and out. I know how they think, what they want and need, and what gets them upset. And I know what we have to do to please them.
The people who are signing the paycheck.
Yes.
It's good to know those things. And are there other affiliates around, like in Poughkeepsie or Albany?
Oh, God.
No.
I don't know. There's so many.
Do you know about how...
There must be one in Albany.
Do you know about how many there are in the U.S.?
Hundreds.
And
we actually gained a lot of affiliates during the pandemic, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. Because I think other entities maybe went out of business, and we picked them up, and for various reasons.
Which entities? It seems like you don't want to say. You're allowed to say.
I'm not allowed to disclose.
Well,
maybe one or two. Honestly, I don't even.
Well, people would look it up if they're really curious.
I just know we have a lot of listeners.
Good. Well, so what do you especially pay attention to? I mean, I guess you have to sort of keep up on the news.
I do. I feel like I have to have a broad knowledge of a lot of things. And I would like to have in-depth knowledge on some things. But, I have to kind of know what's going on in politics. I have to know what's going on in culture, entertainment culture. I have to know what's going on, crime stuff, big crime stuff across the country. George Floyd's murder, say. Even if a house fire, I'm just thinking of recent things. The house fire in Pennsylvania, so tragic. All those people died and a bunch of kids, and the one in the Bronx. You just have to keep track of everything. And I do it. I do it partly by I try to read about 7 or 8 newspapers every morning online.
Okay.
And
which newspapers?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't want to show any bias or anything, but I try to be fair. I try to read, a lot of different viewpoints. What's out there.
So how much time do you spend every morning sort of
prepping?
Yeah, getting up on the news.
I start at like 2:15, 2:30 in the morning, and my first newscast is at 5. So I'd say the good first hour or so, I probably spend 2 hours prepping before I even write, because I like to see everything that's out there. Then I have an editor, and we also discuss what each of us likes best or what each of us thinks is most important. Also, the things that we would like to say include at the end of a newscast that are maybe a little more news you can use, lifestyle or entertainment. Say when Adele canceled her Las Vegas shows because of the supply chain issues. They couldn't get what they needed, and all these people had COVID, so they just couldn't get it together. So that's of interest, I think, to a lot of people. It's supposed to be the biggest show in Vegas of the year. She has the #1 album globally, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different elements, but we like to produce a well-balanced newscast, too.
Sure.
That's not all Washington. We try our hardest to not be so Washington-centric.
Right, but also not, I mean, I don't know what your politics are, but also, I'm guessing, not representative of your personal political bent and bias.
Can't do that. Right. Can't do that. I try very hard not to. I really do. I try to, and it might seem sometimes that I don't have an in-depth knowledge or something, but I just try to avoid it at all costs. I tell you what happened, and you can decide for yourself. Right. Or you can pick up a paper you like and get the analysis.
Right, but this is a big issue. What happened? I mean, if you watch, Fox News versus CNN, just the presentation of the facts is going to be different.
I don't call those stations news. I call them opinionators.
Opinionators.
I do.
All right. So of all of the news outlets that you sort of aggregate, which one is most surprising? I mean, like the Washington Post, the New York Times, the New York Post,
right.
Maybe Al Jazeera, maybe, the Independent and from England or something. These things you'd sort of guess. Which one, would people never guess you look at?
Well, my favorite of late, and it's also owned by Rupert Murdoch, is the Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
It's straight. It's pretty straight. And, it's heavy with business stuff. So I just, if it's business that has general interest, that's good too. But you'd be surprised. And they have great lifestyle pieces and features. And I love their entertainment reviews and things. Just for me.
What reviews?
Entertainment reviews or TV reviews. I don't know. I think they're a solid publication. And believe it or not, for thumbnail stuff, I mean, if you picked up the paper, it's about three pages long. But USA Today gives a good thumbnail. And I don't think their bent is hugely in one direction or the other.
Yeah.
But I read them all, and then I make my own opinion.
Right, you make your own opinion, and you choose which stories you think would be interesting.
I do, but my editor, Matt Cherry, also he's great. He has great news judgment, and most times we agree, but sometimes we'll back and forth, and hey, what do you think of this? And I say, okay, and how about we include this, or how about we include that? And then after our first newscast at 5 a.m., we have an editorial meeting with everyone who's on in the virtual newsroom, including our supervisor, who's got great news judgment. I've worked with him for years. He was at 880 before he was at the network. So he leads the meetings. Then my editor takes a turn. Then I take a turn. Then our assignment editor, Patricia Corrigan, puts her 2 cents worth in, and then our oh gosh, I'm leaving people out, but there's about 6 or 7 of us who are in the meeting, and we just share our ideas. And I love it.
And things will get revised or just excised, and other things put in.
Yes. Like Jonathan will say, I really like this. I really like that. Why don't you, he gives direction, and I really count on that because I value, the more input, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what we're all talking about the most is, what we're going to include.
That's the lead story. Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the reasons that a story will not make it past the 5 a.m. broadcast?
You know what? Generally, that doesn't happen because Matt and I have hashed out pretty much all of the stories and why they matter or why they don't matter. More often, it'll be a story that we include that we hadn't included on the 5.
Okay.
And we like to make the newscast dynamic, so we don't they're fresh every half hour. We include different items. We rotate items. I keep searching all morning. Matt keeps searching. We have all this information coming in because we also have the news wires. We also have our correspondents in the field. We also have access to all the CBS mornings, the TV people who are all out in the field. So we have all that stuff, and it develops throughout the morning. So we have to work hard to include that as it comes in also.
In breaking news stories, things happening.
It happens.
So you go on air at 5 and you're on air until 10?
10:30.
10:30.
Unless there's, last week I stayed till 11 because there was, I forget what it was. I don't remember what the breaking news was, and they needed, because then we'll add newscasts during the hour so they, I was happy to stay and do a little extra one.
And you said virtual newsroom. Are you doing this from your house here in Rhinebeck?
Yes, I've been home since the pandemic. I was the last one to evacuate the newsroom on March, whatever it was, 11th.
Really? Did you get a lot of pens and pencils and pads of paper?
I swiped all the Clorox wipes and pads that I could find. Please don't tell my bosses.
Oh, look at that. She holds up a CBS branded notepad with notes. When you have notes on there, did you make notes?
Those are notes. Questions for me to ask you in case I get nervous and I want to turn the table.
All right, come on, let's hear one.
Really?
Well, yeah, give me your best question.
Okay, I really want to know all of these things.
Deborah, one question.
I'm going to go to not the most burning question. Okay?
Okay, it's your choice.
I'm not going to ask you that. I was going to say, I've heard you're a mean chef and a baker because I know from your daughter, Alice. And I was going to say, how did you learn to bake? But I don't want to know that. Well, I do, but I want to know so many other things.
All I'm interested in is the possibility that she was bragging on me to somebody or anyway.
She totally was.
That's it. We can finish the broadcast now. I'm done.
And your cakes.
That's just.
Oh, yeah.
I love baking and cooking.
So do I.
And the kids, the girls anyway, Daisy and Alice, have started. Look at you now. You got me talking about myself. It's not hard. Have started calling once in a while, not as much as I'd like, and say, "Hey, what's the recipe for that? How do you do this?"
I'd love that.
It's the best to feel. Because they're out of the house, and it's the best to feel that they're remembering things fondly and still wanting some parental guidance.
They liked it.
Yeah. So your kids are out of the house too, right?
No.
Yeah.
My daughter's back.
They're going back somewhere soon.
My daughter's going back to college tomorrow.
And where is she? Some podunk junior college somewhere? I forget what's it called.
It's just near Boston.
It's near Boston.
Outside of Boston.
Your daughter was you're not. It doesn't seem like you're saying this. She was the valedictorian of her class.
She was
there in Rhinebeck High School,
the booming metropolis of Rhinebeck.
And then she went on to Harvard.
She did.
That's the podunk community college I was referring to. And what is she studying there?
Philosophy.
Wow.
Yep. I don't understand anything she talks about. Mostly Heidegger. Like, Heide who?
Yeah. Heidi who?
Yes. It frustrates her to no end that it doesn't register.
Right, but how could that be frustrating? She's studying these sort of esoteric concepts and
now she's trying to figure out what will she do with this.
Well, that's the question that pops into everybody's head right away. Like,
exactly.
Philosophy major. That's interesting.
You can do a lot with it, but she's not interested in law. She's probably listening. She told me she's not interested in law. She's not so much interested in being a professor. But she has other loves, but she chose this.
She could buy a carton of Gitan cigarettes and a beret and just sort of hold court somewhere.
She would never smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
She's a hardcore vegan,
Yeah, oh, that's good.
I guess vegans can smoke, but I don't know.
I think they can. I'm not sure. We'll have to consult our resident vegan when they come in.
Yes.
And you have a son too.
I do. He is living home at the moment. He graduated at the height of the pandemic. In that March, after I evacuated the broadcast center, he was sent home, and he was at the end of his senior year. So he graduated. No graduation still, which I'm really angry at. I had to pay all that money for, all the bells and whistles, and you didn't get a graduation.
And what was he studying and where?
He was studying economics at Penn. And it was just sort of a time of shock and like the world was paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
And he was lucky enough to get a job a block away with a wealth management firm, small wealth management
Here in
firm
Rhinebeck.
on Livingston Street.
Oh, right. I know that place. What's it called?
Yeah, JSA.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all green investing. He's going to kill me because I'm not saying it right. But, their primary focus is investing in environmentally non-destructive things.
That's great. And that's got to be, I'm guessing, a growth sector of that
Well, yeah, all
universe.
the big banks have an ESG. Am I saying it correctly? I think all the big banks have ESG divisions. They have to. I mean, it looks good, and it is the future. So
Look, both of those things.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, so how was that? So he's back. He was gone for 4 years, about
5.
in college. And does he have a bachelor's degree or master's?
He has a bachelor's.
Okay.
Right.
So gone for a number of years, and now he's back living under your roof again.
He is.
How is that as a parent? Pretend he's not listening.
Challenging sometimes. I mean, usually I see the good thing about me is I have the opposite hours of everyone in the world.
Right.
So I rarely see my son. He'll pop his head in the studio in the morning and say, see you later, Ma. And then I'm sleeping when he comes home, or just about sleeping. Same with my husband. Like, we literally see each other Saturdays or half of Sunday. Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. So that's probably a benefit for this kind of cohabitation.
It is, yeah. But then you add someone else into the mix, like my daughter, and they're just like cats and dogs. But we won't go there.
Too late.
I almost asked you if I could come early today.
And she's, yeah, you should have. And she's going back to
She has one
school.
more semester. Mm-hmm. Yep. So she took a year off. So she's on the 5-year plan also. My son took a little time off. I shouldn't, But, yeah. So she'll be graduating in May if all goes as planned.
with a degree in philosophy.
Yes.
And is she entertaining particular options? I'm extra curious because your daughter was friends with my daughter, and
Yeah.
so I sort of know your
Beautiful
kids from
Alice
being around.
Magnusson.
Oh my God, your children are so gorgeous.
Yours are gorgeous.
Don't even start.
Yours are. Oh
No,
my
you.
gosh! And you have 3 of them.
I do.
Yeah.
They're
and
all
that little
so
moss.
wonderful.
Last time I asked you about him, you said he was just playing golf. That's all he wanted to do.
He was, and now he just transferred to SUNY Binghamton. His mother drove him up today, and he was at Syracuse. And
okay.
in Binghamton was his first choice, but he went to Syracuse for a semester, and he's like, I want to go to Binghamton. So he just landed there. She sent me some photos.
So this is his first day. I mean,
He just got there hours ago.
for the first time.
Yeah. Well, he had been there. It's not that far from Syracuse, and he has good friends who
Oh,
were
that
there.
helps so much.
Yeah, including his girlfriend.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
He's gonna love it.
I think so.
Oh, that's
But yeah,
wonderful.
so he'd been there a bunch, and he had some idea what the campus was like and so on.
Do they have a golf course?
I'm not sure. I didn't ask. Yeah, senior year, he hurt his shoulder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so,
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
So sort of stopped playing golf. I suspect, I'm not a doctor, but I did do 1 semester pre-med, so it's kind of an expert
wow.
opinion.
You'd be a good doctor.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I digress.
I suspect it was growing pains that are related to growth spurt. He's grown in the last year, I'm going to say 7 inches, 8 inches.
Wow.
He's 5'11" now.
Oh my! The last time I saw him, he was about up to your waist.
Yeah,
with
he
that
was-
cute,
he-
that cute shaggy, shaky hair, the silky hair. It's adorable.
His growth spurt happened late in his life. Wow. And he was conscious of it, He was like, oh, man. But my growth spurt happened late. So
I saw a picture of baby Norm online.
Oh, you did?
Wow, you look exactly the same, except for really young.
I saw a picture of baby Debbie, and I have it right here.
Oh, my God. I still had that big pumpkin head, that big mouth.
So adorable.
Oh, thank you.
And you look just like your mother.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just like your mom.
I looked some like my father. My father was dark.
Yeah.
Dark hair. My mom... Well,
and your daughter
might have been a bottle blonde, but I always thought of her as light with blue eyes. She had blue eyes. She has blue eyes. My dad was darker.
Daughter looks a lot like you too.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Okay.
So your mom, your dad, what's their story? What did they?
Well,
were you born in Rhinebeck?
I was born at Northern Dutchess Hospital.
Nice.
Yep. My parents came here from. My father was born in Newark, New Jersey, Down Neck, as he used to say, the rough neighborhood. And my mom was born in Appalachia, in Kentucky.
Wow. Whereabouts?
Duck Holler.
What's that
You'd never
near?
find it. You'd have to know someone to get there. Lost Creek. They called it Lost Creek. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she's from the hollers of Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was raised in Cincinnati, and we used to go. I was with my church group. Once a summer, would go down there and rebuild homes in the hollers.
One of them might have been hers.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah,
and it's a whole different world. So she somehow. How did your parents meet?
Funny that you should ask. They had each been married before, and they each had mentally challenged children. My mom had 3 kids. Her oldest, my brother Louis, who lives in Rhinebeck, was mentally challenged. My father had one son who was. He was damaged at birth. My father was in World War II. He was in Italy fighting, and he didn't even know. He just got a telegram, son-born problem. So he came in. He was high forceps. Isn't that terrible? Like they squished his head. Anyway, so he was taking care of his son. He was divorced. He had him for long stretches of time, and they were both. My mother and father were both vegetarians. So my mother was the secretary of the National Hygiene Society. It was like a vegetarian society in the 1940s and 50s.
Oh, now I want a patch that says the National Hygiene Society.
Now it's called something else now.
Still somewhere.
Yes, and so my father was a vegetarian. My mother became a vegetarian at 14.
So it's like 50s, 60s when
they met in the 50s.
Weren't tons of vegetarians.
There was none. My mother met her first husband on a commune in Florida in the 1940s. Okay.
Wow.
Yes. He had long hair, and she wore a bikini. Yeah.
I think I want to do a whole episode just on your mom. Sounds like an amazing life.
Yeah. Well, my father was very colorful background too. Anyway, they met at a vegetarian convention, and I guess they just hit it off. It was in St. Louis. I think she was living there at the time. Her ex-husband was a Fuller Brush salesman there or something. And my father said, "Come on, you're coming with me." And they threw the kids in the back of the car, went to City Hall, had the kids wait outside, and they drove. And the dream was to open a health retreat.
Wow.
Vegetarian, and they did fasting. They did juice and water fasting.
Amazing. So they went to City Hall and got married there?
In St. Louis.
In St. Louis. And this, by the way, is a segue to the cocktail portion of the evening.
Yes, here, I have a napkin.
Debbie has...
I have a, whatever you call this,
well,
a bar towel.
Not me. I'm just going to take the foil off. Debbie's brought a bottle of champagne. That's why it's a perfect segue from them getting married to the drink.
Wow. You thought of you think of everything, Norm. I don't think that.
You want me to do this, or you want to do this?
You do it.
All right.
I know. First, you got to take the wire off, don't you? I was a waitress. That's how I know that.
Were you?
Yeah.
And where were you a waitress?
At what is now Terrapin, because my brother used to own it in the 1980s. It was called Jackarusso's.
Jackarusso's?
Yep. Was I your waitress? I'm talking to your engineer.
Now, when I told somebody that you were coming on the show, they said, "Oh, well, here you should pour.
Really?
It's a good-looking bottle of champagne."
Better than I do.
Well, you were a waitress. I never was. Actually, I was a waiter at a Friendly's.
See?
When I was
you were better trained 15. Than I was.
Well, I didn't have to pour. I never had to pour champagne. That didn't come on the Friendly's menu until like the 80s.
They had a great peanut butter Hot fudge sundae. Do you remember those? I used to love those.
Yeah.
My mother would have kicked me out of the house if she knew I was.
They had a sundae called a
those.
Jim Dandy, and that was my favorite. If somebody ordered a Jim Dandy, I got to make that extra special banana split. So you graduated Rhinebeck High School?
I did. My parents had this place called the Pauling Health Manor for 32 years.
The what?
Rhinebeck.
Pauling
Health Manor. It's where the Belvedere was.
Okay.
And it was a dump, and it was the only thing they could afford. And that's how they actually took out a loan and bought it. It was $29,000 in 1959. Do you know the Belvedere? It's this huge mansion.
Yeah.
And and it needed a lot of fixing up and whatever. So they bought that. They had that business, and my father told my mother he could not have kids, like he had a vasectomy or something. I hope I don't get fired for saying this. Anyway, so my mother.
Are they still around, your folks?
My father died in like 1990, and my mom is going to be 94 tomorrow.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So she thought she had a tumor. So she went to the doctor, and he goes, "Yeah, you have a tumor as a kid," and that was me. So so I was born. I was her fourth, and then she had another. My sister was her fifth. Yeah.
Wow.
And we were born in Rhinebeck.
Well, cheers. Here, let's clink in front of the microphone.
Oh, okay.
Let me try another clink. Get a nice
There you
ring
go.
for that.
Yeah.
Cheers. Here's your parents
Cheers.
meeting at the Vegetarian Society.
Right? I know. It's crazy. They're just, it goes so deep. I can't even go there. Then they got divorced, and then they got married again, and then it was just crazy. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow. And so you have half siblings.
I have
and
three halves.
Full siblings.
You know my sister Betsy. She lives a block away.
Is she full sibling, half sibling?
She's half.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're all, she's 9 years older. I have a brother who's 10 years older, and then a brother who's 11 years older. Then I have a sister who's 2 years younger.
Okay. And
Right.
how many of them are around here?
And then I had my father's son who passed away, who died. Passed away is not something we use on the radio.
It's not.
It's a euphemism. No. Mm-mm. He died. He died just a few years ago. He was older because he was from my father's first marriage. If my father were alive today, he'd be like 110 because he was 17 years older than my mom, who's 94.
94, turning 94 tomorrow.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
another
Yep.
cheers. Here's
To joy.
yeah. And she lives nearby, I'm guessing.
She lives at the Tenbrook Center. Unfortunately, she has dementia. And she needs 24-hour care, but she's a firecracker. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I visited 2 days ago. So we go a lot, and we.
And that's tough. That's really a tough way to lose a parent. That's how I lost my dad. Sorry, that's how he died.
You can say lost.
Was dementia.
It's an awful disease, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird. And now, of course, every time I walk into the other room and forget why I went in there, I'm like, oh no, it's like hereditary.
The same thing.
Yeah.
I'll use it as an excuse if I don't remember something. Dementia setting in. But I do feel like that. But I don't know if that's how it is for everyone because you just have so much in your brain by our age that you just can't, you don't have the quick recall that you did.
It seems that it's that way for everyone. I take some solace
Thank
in that. So you graduated, you're born and raised, graduated Rhinebeck High School.
Yep.
I'm going to guess, just looking at you here, that you graduated in 1991 or something.
You hit the nail on the head.
And then did you get out of Dodge?
I could not wait. I think the day after I graduated, I was gone. I left at 18 and I didn't come back for 30 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I did.
I guess my math was wrong in the graduation year.
Maybe it was 10.
Yeah.
I actually did, after I graduated college.
Which was where?
NYU.
Okay.
I got a job in Poughkeepsie because I knew this was what I wanted to do. I wanted to do news, and I got a job at WHVW, which was in the bay window of the old Bardavon Theater. And all the disc jockeys had liquor names. Jack Daniels, Tom Collins. I don't know. It was crazy. Yeah, it was a tiny news. There was a 2-person news operation.
Wait, did they just happen to have actual liquor names, or did they make them up?
They made them up, and
So
I think they were all,
What was yours?
at lunch.
Don't make me guess.
No, I didn't, because I was the news person.
The news
I had
person.
a reputation to uphold.
And so even then, and at this point, you were like 22, 23 or so?
22 or so, yeah.
Were you Deborah?
No, I was Debbie, and I went by my maiden name, which was Gross.
Uh-huh.
which I couldn't wait to get rid of because, as one news boss told me, it's not mediagenic. Yes.
Mediagenic.
And
That's
so
great.
when I had a first husband and a second, so the first husband was in the same business, and his last name was Mustard, and I was like, oh yeah, I can change my name to Debbie Mustard, but he said, oh no, that'll hurt us in the business. So there went that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then when I met my next husband, I took his name. Yeah. 'Cause I got teased all the time as a kid. It was a thing.
Oh, that's gross.
Gross.
That's gross when kids are mean like
Isn't
that.
it awful?
Couldn't resist. So you went to NYU, and at what point in here did you decide you wanted a career as a broadcaster, as a journalist?
Well, here's the thing. Did your daughter Daisy take a language in high school?
They all studied French.
Okay. Oh, because
Which
you guys
and
were
I said,
so
dudes, no. I was like, dudes, you need to study Spanish. But I speak French, and their mother never studied French, but just has like a real serious facility for languages. So we would talk about them in the car while they were there in French. And so when it came time to choose a language, they're like, oh, we're going to study French so we know what mom and dad are saying.
See?
Yeah.
I got you.
And Mossy actually figured out, le petit enfant, that he was the little kid.
That's so cute.
He's like, you're talking about me, stop it.
It's like the Little Prince.
But yeah, so they all studied French, which doesn't make a lot of sense because really Spanish is the second language in the U.S.
French is good to have. You can read a menu. You can do a lot of things with it.
Yeah, super useful.
Well, so when I went to high school, I had Mr. Orza, who my son had after we moved back to Rhinebeck for Spanish. He had him for 1 year. Anyway, so I had Mr. Orza, and you could start in the 7th grade then and go all the way through. So by the time you graduated, you knew a lot if you applied yourself in the language. And he had that, he never spoke English in the classroom from
Nice.
day one, so that was great. I also took French for 3 years, but teacher was so nice. You didn't learn it quite as much. Mrs. Wakefield, she was lovely.
So you studied Spanish and French.
Yes, but Spanish for much longer. And I knew a lot when I graduated. And you take the advanced placements and blah, blah, blah. So I had a gap year. I went backpacking with a friend in Europe. And I came back a little early, and there was nothing to do. So I said, oh, God, I'm bored. So I took classes at Vassar, language, just language, what I liked. Non-matriculated. I took 3 classes, I think 2 in Spanish, 1 in French. So by the time I got to NYU, I had all these credits and advanced placement credit. So I started, I dove right in at some kind of intermediate level, and I also studied Italian there. So after 2 years, I had fulfilled the major, but I needed more credits. So one day in Italian class, I heard a friend say, oh, I'm taking this course, Media in America. It's really easy. And I said, sign me up. And that's how it started.
So Media in America, did you do any sort of like actual broadcasting?
It was a terrible course. It was one of those massive courses. I think I got a D the first time. I had to take it over. But then when you got into they had lots of hands-on courses because the adjunct professors were wonderful because they were the ones working in the field. I had this guy who was the news director at NBC or the general manager of news there, Jim Farley, who later retired from WTOP radio in Washington. And we'd sit on typewriters, and he had these shoes with like taps on them and a pipe in his mouth that wasn't lit and his pants hiked up, and he'd put us on deadline and tell us things to write, and he'd make all this noise in our ears, and he'd come at us and he'd harass us.
That's
what it's like
that's
in a real
hilarious.
newsroom. Keep writing. And he was right.
Dropping pots and pans on the floor.
Yes, I was terrified of him too.
That's so hilarious.
Yeah. They had great teachers there,
but
and
probably
because it was in New York. Yeah.
Probably actually good training.
Great training.
So do you still own any typewriters?
No, but I miss my old Corona and so much. I do have my old tape recorder. I heard Guillermo Fesser tell you about his. Mine was an old Marantz. I remember when I first got it, I don't know, it was in my second, on-air job, and I remember just rocking it as a baby because I'd wanted it for so long, and I still have it, except the take-up reel breaks sometimes, so the cassette tape spins backwards and it all comes.
Oh, jeez. So it's a reel-to-reel?
Well, not a big reel-to-reel.
Okay, it's a regular cassette.
It's a cassette player, but like a brick. Not a brick. The brick is a smaller unit, but yay big.
Yeah, sure.
What do you call that?
I had one of those cassette player.
Well, but it's a professional
Oh, gotcha.
broadcasting thing, yeah. A reel-to-reel, don't even go there. I love those. With the razor blade and the grease.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's really old school. So you graduated and you got a job, came up to Poughkeepsie. How long did that last?
9 months. I couldn't wait to get out. They had enough of covering like the city council and writing all the news for the guy who came in the morning. He just picked it up and read it. That's all he did. He was my news director. I remember his name, but I'm not going to say it. So I took a day off. I made appointments for interviews at 3 or 4 places. I went to Hartford. I went to Westchester. I went to Long Island, and I got the job on Long Island. So I went there for 9 months, and I was a stringer, they called it, for NBC Radio. So I would do little reports from Long Island for there and for WOR, and then after that I moved into the city.
And what exactly is a stringer?
A stringer is usually you have a full-time job at a local station, and you'll file reports for the larger market station, and they pay you per piece. But you get your name, you get your voice on the air in a major market.
Right.
So that's exciting. Plus, they pay you nothing in the small markets. I made $125 a week in Poughkeepsie, and I worked average 12 or 13 or 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And silly me, I went to Long Island, and they said, What were you making in Poughkeepsie? And I said, $125 a week. And they said, we're going to give you a raise. We're going to give you $135.
Oh, no.
I said, oh, thank you.
You learned your lesson right then and there.
Yeah.
And so then you went into the city after that to work where? To
work at, I jumped ship for an FM radio station because the money was so attractive. People told me not to do it because they said, because you should be holding out for a news-oriented station or an all-newser. Yeah. Which I wanted to, but, they're dangling this thing in front of you, and it's more money than you've ever seen in your life. You can actually live in New York City and pay your rent and, have some left over. So,
what was the FM station? You were doing news there?
It was called, it was like a news bunny, I call it. It was called WNSR. And it changed to Mix 105, and then it changed to, I don't know, it had so many iterations, but it did very well. It was owned by the Mormons, actually. Oh. Bonneville. They own I don't know if they still do, but they owned a lot of radio and TV stations.
I had no idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then from there, I begged WCBS 880. I'd send samples every 6 months, and I'd call the assistant news director, this guy, Bernie Gersh. I'd say, please, please, please. And he said, how can I use you? I have this one and this one and this one. I don't know. And I just hounded him for years. And finally he said, okay, you can try it. So I did fill in on the overnights. And that was like, wow.
Big time.
That's how, and Wayne was doing full-time. My friend Wayne Cabot was full-time on the overnights.
Yeah.
And he's the one who trained me.
And what does that entail? How does one get trained for that?
It's overwhelming because there are so many moving parts. And 880 is all news. So you're on straight for 5 hours on many shifts. Uh-huh. So, you know what? I brought snacks.
Oh, no, you brought snacks too?
No, just a little nibble so that we don't get, it's
I'm helping myself to more champagne. Thank you so much.
They're all Christmas gifts, but these are really good with champagne. These little cheddar cheese biscuits with a little hot in them.
Yeah.
Sorry, we ate half of them already.
That's okay. They look great.
Summerhoff Farms cheddar cheese biscuits. They're local. Yeah. Very good.
Do they send you? Do they send you a free package if you mention their name on air?
I don't know, but I went in yesterday.
Summerhoff Farms cheddar cheese biscuits.
Yes. I forget, maybe they're like Pine Place. They're somewhere close by. But they sell them at Hammertown in Rhinebeck, and I went in yesterday to get a fresh pack. I was like, I can't bring a half open pack. And they don't have anymore. I think supply chain issues.
Egads.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough, supply chain issues.
Last year they overpurchased, they thought. So this year they were for sale forever, for months and months, because,
So do you miss going into the studio?
I do. I love the communal atmosphere of a newsroom and people yelling and shouting and, did you get this on? This just came in, quick, call this reporter in Idaho or LA or something. I miss that.
Right.
But I've gotten used to the virtual newsroom. We use a system called Slack. And it is a communal experience. You can communicate with everyone immediately, and you can it's a good system. But I very much miss being there. And the building, and we were with TV, and we were with sports, and you got to see all different kinds of people walking around, and Marie and the cafeteria, my favorite cashier.
And you did TV once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
How long did that
chapter
last?
of my life I like to forget.
How?
On and off for a few years. I didn't like it.
And what didn't you like about it?
Because you know what? You're not as in charge of your own product. If you're anchoring, I mean, if you're in a smaller market, you do write, but other times you're reading other people's writing. It might not be the way you would express yourself or read or whatever. And reporting, there are a lot of different pieces that go into. You have a cameraman, you have an editor, you have da 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 da.
Right.
You're so reliant on so many people, but radio is so personal, and you're really very much in charge of your own product.
But the money must have been much better. Money's
No.
better.
No.
It's not?
No.
Huh.
I mean, local. Not in local necessarily. Not unless you're a big star and an anchor. But as a reporter, no, not at all. I mean, we have unions, so depends on your union.
What's your union?
SAG-AFTRA.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah. So there's a minimum that you all negotiate for and maintain over the years. Yeah. It's.
And do you like the union?
I do. Yeah, I probably shouldn't talk about it because. Yeah, I probably shouldn't talk about it, but I appreciate them. They've helped me in the past somewhat.
They help you with
if you
labor dispute issues?
Yeah, if there's labor disputes or, they fight for you they fight for you in contract negotiations.
That's great.
Yeah.
And good health care?
Yes, the union has great health care.
Yeah.
I've always, except for during the pandemic, not as many people were paying in. So they raised the rates. They kicked spouses off. Yeah.
Yeah, I happen to be in that union.
You're in SAG-AFTRA?
Yeah, I am.
So you know.
Yeah.
Do you get health coverage through
yeah.
them? What do you think about it?
Awesome. Super
Right?
good. Yeah.
It's relatively so inexpensive compared to, if you had to get even Obamacare, whatever. It's a bargain.
Yeah. No,
I don't know if it's a bargain, but I can also get CBS insurance, but I choose union.
CBS would probably be more expensive.
I don't know. I never took it. I always just stuck with the union. It was easy.
Right. I'm pro-union in general. So let me just read this because I did a bunch of research on you and watch your interview with Wayne.
Oh, I got in trouble for it. Don't ask me anything touching from that.
Now I want to talk about your voice because the CBS site says perfect diction and a distinctive voice.
Really?
Yes.
I never even read that.
Really? You never Google yourself?
I swear to God. No. I hate it. I can't stand. I just.
At one point in your career, did you do like tongue twisters and practice your perfect diction?
No.
Did you always have it?
No.
You were the kid
I worked at WNYU, okay, and I have a tape somewhere, a cassette tape, and it still makes me cringe. I used to say W. It makes your skin crawl. That's.
You say
W.
W.
W. Yes, there
And
are so many things that drive me crazy that I've learned over the years. W.
W.
It's W. It's
W.
not W.
W.
Yeah, I learned a lot of things though from a lot of bosses. I learned often instead of often.
Really?
I learned vehicle
Wait
instead
a
of
minute.
vehicle.
I just changed. I grew up saying often. And then noted like 10, 20 years ago, everybody around me said often. I'm like, oh, I guess I've been pronouncing it incorrectly.
It's probably an either or, but I had a boss who said, don't ever say often. And I hear news people do it, and I cringe because I say it's often.
What else?
Often.
What else makes you cringe?
Vehicle. But I think that's a Southern thing, don't you?
Vehicle. Yeah, I guess vehicle.
I don't know. I'm trying to think now of other things. And I only remember the things that I got in trouble for saying myself. Or pronunciations. Things I mispronounced.
Right.
Pronounced?
Mispronounced.
Yes.
Well, now you're in trouble with me for that.
Sorry.
Listen, the time is 5:44.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Did you cringe?
Cringe?
It's funny. Because I heard in the interview you're not supposed to say the time is. Or
that's the thing that drives me crazy.
Yeah, see.
Well, guess what? They used to be very strict at WCBS 880. So they used to play your sound checks back for you.
Yeah.
At regular intervals, and they'd stop it and they'd say, "Don't say is between the time check." People do it all the time now, and I still cringe.
And so how would you say?
WCBS News Time. You say WCBS News Time, 2:50, whatever we are here. 5:45. WCBS News Time, 5:45. Never an is.
And people still say.
People violate now. Well, as the years have gone on, I guess it's gotten looser. But it's a pet peeve of mine.
And so do you listen to other people's broadcasts?
If I can tolerate it. No, yes I do.
Right.
Yes I do.
Who do you listen to and think, "Oh man, I wish I had that voice, or I wish I had that diction"?
Well, I don't envy voices, because they're just voices. They can be empty. They can be giving you empty information. They can be not feeling something. I think feeling things is a big part of the news. You have to like feel what you're talking about and try to vary your delivery, I think. And I don't do that. I don't think about it enough, but I try. The person that I admire the most, seriously, is Wayne Cabot. I just think he's a consummate broadcaster.
Because I listened to his interview with you, and I listened to other stuff by him, and I listened to a bunch of stuff by you, and I found his diction and elocution like perfect, and his delivery to be newscastery, which is to say, for me, not having a lot of emotion. Whereas I listen to your stuff, and
because you haven't heard him,
feel warm. Maybe I haven't, but you really, and this is one of the things I like about listening to you on the radio. You seem to have an emotional warmth in your perfect delivery. Oh God!
Thank you. Let's toast to that.
Yeah, right.
Wayne. I like Wayne not because of his voice. He happens to have great pipes, and not because of his diction. I just think he's a real human being, and I feel like he delivers a story in an interesting way. He gets the hook. He knows what people care about and how to get that across right away. And he's conversational, and a lot of stuff he does off the top of his head. So you have to listen to his actual morning news show.
So it's a combination of good writer.
You listen to a podcast, so that's not a good indication. You listen to his morning news. He's on for 5 hours.
I heard some of him.
Oh, you did?
Somewhere, yeah,
okay.
Doing some news.
Anyway, especially when he's on his own, he just, God, he's just so smooth, and he's funny, but he can be serious. He can be
like a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. He could be a pain in the neck, but he's a really nice guy.
Who can't?
Who can't be? So I kind of tried to model myself after him, believe it or not, when I came to a certain point in my career, and when I was there, because, yeah. He trained me, and this is what he'd do if I put an is between the time check. Just give me your hand. I'd say, WCBS News Time is, don't do that again. Right when we were around, he'd slap me on the hand, and I'd take it away from the board because I was in trouble.
Of course, now you would own the network.
Oh, never. Never. I'm sorry. Right, it's all about me. Why don't we talk about you?
Oh, yeah, that's why we're here.
This is what I was going to ask you.
But things have changed. This is one of the things you talked about with Wayne. Like when you entered the business in the 80s, I entered the advertising business in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And boy, things were just really different, and tolerances were different.
Oh, yeah. I used to say when I went into the newsroom all those years ago, it was like entering the men's locker room. And I was ready for, that's just what it was.
Right. And
that's just what it was.
You just accepted it. You weren't sensitive to it.
Well, it was uncomfortable sometimes, but I never show, I would just turn red and keep it to myself or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And things are different now, I'm guessing, in the newsroom.
Very different.
You're all virtual.
Very
but
different.
If you were all there, the tolerances would be completely different.
Very different. Very different.
And with the change in tolerances, there's definitely a change in the sort of the air, the attitude, the general sense of camaraderie. Have you felt that?
Well, we have a lot of news. We have a lot of women in our newsroom, especially in the morning. So that's great. But also my editor, Matt, is a guy. He's just not that kind of person. He would never, ever overstep. He just wouldn't do that. But people are so aware now that they could lose their jobs, and they could be sued, and the company could be sued, and whatever. And we have so much training, regular training, online training. And those are long courses you have to, it is really just seared into your head. And plus, you just know now because they've drawn a line. There's a line, and you can't cross it if you want to keep your job.
It's a great thing in terms of respect and making everybody comfortable. But certainly when people are extra cautious, there's a lack of spontaneity and maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when you started, you said in one of the interviews that Rita Sands was one of your
I was terrified.
One of your heroes.
I was terrified.
But she was like the first female newscaster there.
Mm-hmm. At WCBS 880.
And how long after her did you come?
Not soon after. Maybe a year or two. I forget what the sequence was.
Oh, so pretty soon after.
Pretty soon after. But I started on the overnights. They made me work for my ultimate position there. I started on overnights. Then they had me on this evening shift that was like a couple days anchoring and a few days reporting, or reporting before my shift, then anchoring a couple hours. Then I did every shift there was.
But you're a trailblazer. You said that there's lots of women doing that job now at CBS, and at the time
totally.
it was Rita and then you and just the two of you.
Was a woman named Therese Crowley also in there somewhere. There were a lot of us working at the same time.
And was there a sense that you were breaking new ground and doing something that was going to eventually welcome?
No, I never thought of it. I just thought of people as people. Honestly, I really did think of that. I have to say, at the network where I am now, it was all men for a very long time, anchoring anyway, and that changed over the last few years.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Well, that's
it's gone in the opposite direction. Actually, there are more women than men anchoring. So,
really,
mm-hmm.
And what's apart from the job you have now, which is I'm sure your dream job? What other dream jobs are out there?
I really don't have one.
You're doing it.
Yeah, I am. I really am. I'm not interested in anything else anymore. I'm just boring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you. Can I ask you a question, Norm?
Yeah. No, I got one more question I have to ask.
All right.
How did you kill Paul Harvey?
Oh my!
Because
God.
When I was a kid, Paul Harvey was growing up. He was like it. I loved him, and he was like seriously Christian and stuff. And I didn't care. Just loved his voice. I loved listening to him on the radio, and I couldn't wait till the end of his broadcast. You know what he said? Can you do it? Yeah, that's it.
Because Wayne always used to tease me with that after the whole thing that I killed Paul Harvey.
And everybody did an impersonation of Paul Harvey.
Page 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, the rest of the story. Right.
That's it. Oh, my God, you're taking me right back. It is 69 Thunderbird with the AM radio.
Oh, my gosh. I wasn't around back then, but it must have been fun.
No, you weren't. It was really nice. So how did you kill Paul Harvey?
Oh, it's so embarrassing. I would have gotten fired for it today.
You what?
I would have gotten fired for it today. I was at WCBS 880. Newswatch never stops. You're taking stuff right off the wire. Everything's coming in, and I see this slug. That's what they call the titles on the Associated Press news stories, and it said Paul Harvey dead. And I grabbed it and I said, I was co-anchoring with Wayne. I said, I have to do this. He goes, don't do it. Sort of off when we had our mics off, and I opened my mic for some reason, and I did it. And I'm reading, Paul Harvey is dead. Associated Press, editor of sports, died, blah, 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 blah. It was another guy named Paul Harvey.
Oh, no.
Who no one would have even broken news for.
Oh.
Isn't that terrible? I'm so ashamed. It was many, many years ago. So Wayne always teases me. Good day. That's his jab.
His jab. Do you mind if I start doing that when I see you at Samuel's and stuff?
Okay.
Good day.
No.
And I heard you killed Bob Hope too.
No,
Really?
I didn't kill Bob Hope.
No, that's what I heard.
Hey, I have enough issues. I didn't. I don't think I did.
But that's how you refer.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's what Wayne said in this interview I listened to.
He lied.
Oh. But that's what you call it when you accidentally report somebody as dead who has not, in fact, died.
We have to go through about 5 different channels now before we, at the network, because the network is different than local. I mean, the local, I don't know, whatever. They're a little looser. No, at the network, we have to get it confirmed by like 3 sources, including like the family or the person spokesperson. It has to be solid, no doubts. The guy's gone. Meatloaf died this morning, last night, and we had to wait to do that story until his family statement was out, and whatever. Everyone he knew confirmed it, and
right,
because you don't want to
no
bury someone before their time.
No, what was it? Mark Twain had a good line: "The reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated," or something like that.
Same with Paul Harvey.
So good. So as the anchor, you're coordinating the different stringers, I guess, who have stories that they've recorded. Yeah.
Well, we my editor, my supervisor, and the assignment editor, we all talk about it. We discuss the stories we want. So we have correspondents in Paris, we have London, we have all over Greensboro, North Carolina. So we say we see what stories we like and say, oh, that would be a good one for, say, Jim Krasula in North Carolina. Weather, South, whatever. Oh, Boris Johnson stuck his foot in his mouth about that garden party during the pandemic. Get Vicky Barker to do that. So that's what we do. First we choose our stories, and then we figure out who's where, because we have our own radio reporters to assign. Like, we tell them, do A, B, and C stories for us.
Right.
And then we work them in. And then we also have reporters for TV network who are doing some of the same stories, but they may be in different places. And you have so many newscasts, and you have to use fresh stuff every time. So you use it all.
And as anchor, you're sort of, creating the segues and coordinating and figuring
right.
how they
and
all,
my editor
how they all
and
fit together.
my editor, Matt, and I just decide what the order is. And
do you do many interviews yourself?
Not so many, because I don't have time, but I leave pieces for the weekend. Like, I interviewed you. What did I interview you about, Norm? I ambushed you out in front of our Samuel's coffee shop.
My wonderful children. I'm sure it was that.
No,
Could I
it
talk
was
to you
about your
how
artwork.
Fabulous your kids are. I'm pretty sure those were your exact words.
No, it was about because you do those. I love them. Those landmark signs. You think it's a landmark, and they look just like the state landmark signs with the blue and the gold, and they're all sort of a political thought or something that just makes you stop and think.
Yeah.
I love them.
Well, thank you. Does that count as your question? I'm sorry you used it up on that.
I wondered where you got your interviewing skills from, first of all, because you're so good. I'm addicted now. I listen to all your podcasts.
Listening to early tapes of you.
That's not true.
I don't know. I mean, one listens to interview shows all the time. Terry, and now that I've started doing this and paying more attention, it's like, wow, I could never be as good as Terry Gross. I mean, it really... The people who are really good at it, I have a smidgen of a better understanding of what makes for a really spectacular interviewer. And when I hear people who are really good at that, I'm like, oh, you're amazing. That's
See, I
so
say,
good.
oh, I could never do that.
Where
does that come from? No, because I listen to you, and you're so great at bringing. I was terrified coming in here, and then it just seems like, oh, we're just having a party. No, but I really admire you for that, and my interviewing skills aren't. Like, you're 100 million times better than I am, because I really haven't had to do it in a very long time. In terms of, having a full hour where people hear everything. You can't edit out the bad stuff. You can't,
No, it's one of the things I like about doing this live. Mm-hmm. And if you're listening now, you're listening to it live, is mistakes happen and they're done. There's nothing you can do.
Stuff.
You can't rewind.
Yeah.
And and I listen because I am trying to figure out what makes this work. So I listen to all of the shows, and every single show there's something I say. I'm like, oh God, I'm so stupid. And so
I haven't heard one of those.
Well, I'm certainly not going to point them out to you.
Oh, but with the clock ticking down, I have to ask you this. I really was interested. What was the most surprising answer to a question that you got, or the most surprising thing that you learned out of all of the interviews that you've done?
Oh my goodness! They're all live. I've recorded 2 of them because I couldn't be there on New Year's Eve. So actually, the guests couldn't be there on New Year's Eve.
The Sesame Street lady and her photographer husband.
Yes.
I'm an Uber fan.
Amy and Richard. Oh, they're the bestest. But then I recorded one other interview that's sort of in the back pocket for in case.
In case I cancel on you again.
In case somebody cancels at the last minute. And that's with the founder of the station, the co-founder, and our engineer right here, Matt Rosenberg.
Thank you, Matt. I can't wait to hear it. I'll be listening.
Yeah, and
we call them evergreens.
And he just had so many layers. People talk about going down sort of the Google rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. The Matt rabbit hole is bottomless. Like, you could talk to this guy for years. And so yeah, I think that was a surprise because I barely knew him. And the things that he is expert in, or expert enough in, and knows a lot about, are ridiculously interesting. So stay tuned for that interview whenever that happens.
Wait, you're such a tease. That's a great tease.
And now, thanks for that, you the professional. And now it's the end of our hour. It always comes too soon.
I didn't get to ask you 10 questions that I have here for you.
Yeah, well, you should have your own show. Oh, wait, you do.
Not really.
And
It's not
this
freeform,
This has been Debbie Rodriguez of CBS News Radio.
Oh, thank you for having
can
me.
Can you
It
just
was
tell
so
people
fun.
thanks for listening to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org?
Thanks for listening to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org.
Have a happy Friday. Bye.
Bye.